Okay, hello again, everybody. So, got an awesome new review for you guys of a new film, and I was able to get Brittany to come and do the review with me. So we're going to talk about the movie Greenland. So this is like this new sort of disaster movie. Been like many things, it's been delayed, and it finally sort of came out, and so really excited to talk about it. And this is it's a Gerard Butler kind of movie. So, it's sort of like some of the other action movies that he does, a similar sort of disaster kind of film. So Brittany, why don't you sort of introduce yourself and your channel and what kind of stuff you do online?
As you already mentioned, my name's Britney, and I have a YouTube channel, which I've really, in the last 6-ish months, started to get back into, because I've really started hitting the movie scene pretty hard. Like, before I used to just stream all my movies and that was good enough for me, but now I'm sort of wanting to get into the, good quality, physical media, as you can see behind me there. I'm just starting to collect everything, and on my channel now, that's pretty much what I focus on, is showing, my pickups. That's basically it.
Cool. Yeah. You definitely got some really cool videos, especially, showing off your collection of just like even stuff like kind of beyond films, I think you show as well.
Yeah. Like, it's not just, I'm not just collecting movies. I collect a bunch of different stuff, and but mostly it's movies back there.
Yeah. I don't know if do you guys get like the same kind of sales? There's like a twice a year Criterion sale. I don't know if you guys have that.
We have, like, with that sort of stuff, I have to shop online, because we do have JB Hi-Fi here, which is basically the store here that gets all the exclusives, like all the cool editions and stuff like that. But they have a bunch of sales going on over there, but they don't carry Criterion or Arrows or anything like that. They just carry all the normal titles, but they do get the special editions in once every now and then. But with all the Criterion and Arrows and overseas versions, you can get that. There are websites in Australia that do offer it. So that's where I get all those ones.
I'm sure shipping right now has been kind of, especially international shipping, has been kind of a pain. I'm sure, I can imagine.
Yeah, like I purchased a this was at the start of like the pandemic, when shipping really slowed down. I had to wait 3 months to get something from the US.
Yeah.
That's actually the red National Lampoon's edition there. I waited 3 months to get that. I'd lost all hope that it was going to show up.
Yeah.
After 3 months, it just randomly shows up. But
was it worth the wait?
Yes, it definitely was worth the wait. Like, when I got it, I opened it up and I was just like, okay, I ain't even mad now.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it didn't have any tracking on that one.
The thing that did piss me off about that one, though, was the Blu-ray edition that has the DVD and a Blu-ray edition of it. The Blu-ray version comes with this Blu-ray exclusive moose cup. And when I got it, it was plastic. It was like a 5-cent bit of plastic. And I was just disappointed because I thought it was glass. And I was just like, why is this even a Blu-ray exclusive? It's like 5 cents worth of plastic.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things that kind of throw in to kind of entice people, but it's not. Yeah. It's just.
Well, it worked on me. I mean, if it had, this is plastic in the listing, I would have been like, probably still would have bought it, but at least I would have expected that.
Yeah. So, do you own any of like the London Has Fallen, the Has Fallen films on Blu-ray?
No,
or those?
I've seen them all, but I don't own any of them. I didn't think they were that bad. Like, they're definitely not like good movies, but I found them entertaining.
Yeah. So one of my other podcast partners, he's a big fan of, like, I guess you could call those kind of movies like the very B action movies, like where there's a big star, but then they're shooting in some other country for whatever reason, and it's just like silly action and kind of crazy over the top stuff. So it definitely has its niche, and I feel like this film is kind of within that niche. So
yeah, like this one here, I went into it thinking, oh, here we go again, another Gerard Butler like saving the planet movie. You know what I mean? That's what I went into this movie thinking.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Geostorm, but that's
Yeah,
kind
I've
of
seen.
that's like a bigger scale version of this
I didn't.
story.
I didn't like that one at all. Like that's
Yeah,
probably his first movie that I just didn't like at all.
yeah. This was an interesting one. So I guess just to talk a little bit about the plot, I guess we'll kind of be vague, not give too many spoilers, and then at the end we can kind of give our overall thoughts. So, again, it's a disaster movie. There's this interstellar comet called Clark that's coming, and at first everyone's like, "Oh, cool, great, let's go and see it pass by the Earth." And we know it's not going to work out like that, right?
Yeah, like, otherwise there'd be no movie.
Yeah, there'd be no movie. And so we like the beginning of the film is just we kind of see him. He's like a contractor, and he's sort of, I guess, estranged from his wife. Like they have some problems. And then he starts getting these notifications on his phone from the Department of Homeland Security, and they're telling him, go here, go to this place. And at first he kind of ignores it, right? And then, he's going around, he's doing stuff, and then he sees a bunch of military planes flying, like when he goes to a grocery store. And they're just like, uh-oh, it's getting worse, it's getting worse. And then finally, kind of like the news, they're all at his house, a bunch of people, I guess for like a barbecue or something. And then they get the actual news like, oh, by the way, there's going to be some debris hitting Earth and it's going to be cataclysmic. And then there is one scene that we see some destruction happen. So I guess one of the questions I have for you is like, how'd you feel the effects were in this movie of the destruction that we see?
Well, before I watched this film, I went into it with a bit of a bias because I'd seen other reviewers say the effects were a bit cheap. So I went into it fully expecting it to be cheap. But in that first impact, that actually shocked me. Like the effect was good enough that it shocked me. Like just to see that level of destruction, like from that distance, I think it was perfectly set up. With that news chopper, getting that shot. I think it was perfectly set up, showed just the right amount, and it shocked me. So I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they really do show, like you said, some destruction that's happening, and then we get the sense that this is pretty apocalyptic.
Like that was massive.
Yeah, absolutely. So then now panic set in, right, for everybody. They're like, okay, we got to get out of here. But none of the other people that he knows have been invited. They've gotten this Department of Homeland Security notification. So only him. And they say, go to this place in Georgia, and then you're going to get on a plane and you're going to be taken somewhere. And then the next part of the scene is just them kind of basically trying to get to this air base. How did you feel about the way they set up the characters, the way that they introduce us to Gerard Butler character and his wife and his kid? Did you like that?
Yeah, I actually really did like that because it really set up a lot of character development because they start the movie off where they're just like, hardly talking to each other, him and his wife. And, the whole relationship he has with his kid, like they show a bit of, him lying down in bed, comforting him, his son. I thought it was really well set up.
They do. I think it was really because you could tell from the beginning, like there was something off with the relationship with him and the wife. But I don't know if you've seen the movie Dr. Sleep, but so the kid who's in this movie, he plays a role in Dr. Sleep. He plays a young Danny Torrance, and he was didn't have a lot to do there, but he's pretty good here. I think he's really solid in this film. And one thing that they set up that, we know is going to become a problem later on is that their kid has some form of diabetes, and so he needs insulin constantly. And so we know like that's a huge problem, right?
Yeah.
For the movie.
Like that's one of the main plot points of the film, like that sets up most of the film.
Yeah, and it constantly becomes an issue down the line in different places where, if they don't get him insulin, he's going to be, basically in trouble. And also if they, like basically that becomes a problem for them to get to Greenland as well later in the film.
Yeah, like the thing that I really like about that whole plot of the film was that even though he had this, basically a ticket into these bunkers, um, that whole thing of the movie meant that they had to find a different way, and what that did was it really showed a bit of his character. Like you've met all these neighbors and everything, and their whole attitude was, well, let's just wait around for him to call. Like they're not really doing anything for themselves. Yet he had his sort of, he had this issue, yet he didn't let that stop him. He was still willing to fight to get his family to safety. He wasn't waiting around for somebody else to solve his problem.
Yeah, for sure. He was definitely very active in, trying to get him out. They're faced with a lot of challenges in this film, which I thought, was pretty well done. There's a scene they're driving to this airport, and there's just like mass looting and anarchy in the streets. And then so then we also get this really, I think it was pretty well done sort of scene like in the car where their son, like, he takes out like a blanket from his backpack or something. And then we see like the insulin fall over and we're just like, ooh, this is really.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
It's one of these moments, is it?
Yeah. We're just like, ooh, this is going to be really bad. Yeah. And so the payoff for that is they get to this airport. They're able to show this little QR code on their phone to the military people to get on this plane. And then they're about to board one of these planes. And then, his wife's like, where's the insulin? We don't have it. And it's like, oh, he must have dropped it in the car. And so then Gerard Butler goes back into the car.
Yeah. I was like, when he did that, when he decided, I'm just going to head back out into that crowd and go to the car, I was just, on one hand, I understood it. He's a dad, wanted his kid to be healthy. But on the other hand, I was like, really, dude?
That was like, to me, I was like, okay, I thought that at that point, they were either going to get separated there, like they were going to get pushed onto the plane and then the plane was going to take off, or I thought he was going to basically get attacked by people. Yeah. And have them like try and take his wristband and he gets stuck. Yeah, so I I thought that moment, that was definitely like kind of the classic horror movie, like, oh, let's split up kind of thing.
Yeah, that was definitely one of those. I don't know, it kind of annoyed me at first. I mean, there are moments in plenty of movies that annoy me, and then later on you understand why it needed to happen. Yeah,
they played, so the way that this part of the film, because we know they're going to get split up at some point, right? So the way they resolve it is that he actually is able to get back safely, but the crux of this is that they're not going to allow anyone who has health problems onto the plane. So the wife and the kid pretty much end up getting kicked off the plane, and Gerard Butler can't get into contact with his wife. And so basically he's going to get on the plane without them. So I thought that was a pretty good way to sort of change up what we expect, Yeah,
like that kept me guessing. Like I went into that thinking, oh, okay, so he's going to fly off and he's going to have to somehow come back or do something. I wasn't expecting it to turn out the way it did.
Yeah, I didn't either. I thought it was pretty well done because pretty much they have, the wife is almost like sort of on her own, but like for no real reason. Like they kind of get separated, and they're both stuck. They're both stuck here, in the place where the apocalypse is basically going to happen. So even if they not only do they have to find each other, but they're fighting against time to like get back to Greenland to survive.
Yeah. I don't know the because I found like the movie was hard to watch. Like I should have started off by saying that. Like I had to stop the movie a couple of times because it got really emotional in certain spots of the film, and there was one where they got separated at the airport. I had to stop it because like only for a few seconds just to sort of rage a bit, going, why is this happening? And then later on, like when the mother's by herself and she's sort of having to take charge and try and sort things out, um, without giving like too much away, like yeah, there was one scene where I had to stop it because it just, oh god, that was a really bad part of the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I know the part you're talking about.
Yeah, I was shocked that it happened, and I was like, oh my god, I cannot imagine what she's going through right now.
Yeah. The second part of the movie where the two are separated and the mom is just going through bad stuff. It gets really intense and like you said, it gets really emotional.
Yeah, it was at that point of the movie where I was just like, this is so well written. Like, I'm getting this emotional about this film. This is really well done.
Yeah. One other question I had just for us to sort of talk about is like, how'd you feel? So like in the second half of the film, the dad's trying to find his wife and his son. How'd you feel about some of the people he encounters on the way? He meets some like good people and some bad people. Do you think that those scenes worked for you?
I do because I think it built on his character a lot more. Like you have to see him like just like when he like how are we doing with spoilers in here? Because it's kind of hard to talk about it without giving away
We
spoilers.
we can do a spoiler, like we can do a like after this we can go into spoilers more if that's going to be better for discussion. Yeah.
Um, I'm just trying to how to explain this without like giving much away. But when he's in the truck with the other guys,
Mhm.
I think that whole scene, especially the way that ended, it really built on his character because now like he's obviously done what he's done, and you can see him kind of coming to the realization, like he's in shock, realizing what he's done, and I think that really built on his character, and you could see what he's actually capable of.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like you said, there's some very emotional stuff that happens in the second half of this film.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do a spoiler discussion now so we can talk about whatever we want. And so let's start with so they get separated. The dad, he also stays, but then the wife basically takes the son and tries to find some other way to get to, I believe, basically her dad's house, which is kind of
Yeah.
up north a little bit further. So she hitches a ride with some other people
Yeah.
after going. So there's also a scene where she goes in to get some more insulin for her son, and some people rob the store that, like, at gunpoint, are robbing and shooting and killing people in this convenience store that's being looted.
Yeah, I quite like that scene because I mean that's not, apart from like having guns, that's not something we haven't seen recently over in the US. But I liked how they still showed the human side when she was leaving, and that dude kind of said go. You know what I mean? I liked how they
Mhm.
still showed that there was still a human side to people, even though they're really desperate.
Yeah, for sure. This scene felt a little interesting to me. Like, if people are looting a store, you're probably, I don't know if you need to kill other people that are looting, but
I like I think it's a case of like some people just don't care. Like they know the world's ending or whatever. And that's the thing I don't guess. Like if you know the world's ending, what's the point? What are you doing?
yeah,
But
I know.
I think it really emphasized how crazy things were getting. Like just people just didn't care.
Yeah, yeah, and there's just these rising levels of problems for them to deal with, not only to like protect her son, but like to protect herself and like for them to get together, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so then, yeah, she hitches a ride with these people who are going north, and so they decide, okay, yeah, we'll help take you there. And then, so it's a husband and a wife, and then the husband basically gets this idea of getting rid of the wife, getting rid of let me just get the character's name. It was Allison. Allison is the mom. Getting rid of her and then like taking her son and then going back and trying to get on the plane.
Yeah.
And then he goes does this whole thing where he takes her out of the car and just throws her and leaves her.
Yeah, that's the part where I had to like sort of stop it, because it's a mother that's having her child literally taken away from her, like kidnapped, and I had to stop it because it was just like I don't know, it just like hit me here, you know what I mean? It was just like I sort of stop it and just, you know, sort of calm myself down, because even though it's just a movie, but the fact it had that kind of emotional response, the acting was just brilliant, I think.
Yeah, the actress, it's Morena Baccarin. She's pretty kind of well known. You know, she was in Firefly and she was in Deadpool. I think both of the Deadpools. So she's kind of well known. She's a good actress for sure, and she's very solid in this film. Good to see her again. Like, you know, I feel like she's not in enough stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was a brutal part of the film where they get separated, and now her son is with these random people by himself.
Yeah, that I can't imagine, like, for the mother it must be bad enough, but for that kid, he must have been terrified.
Yeah, because like, what can you do? You're kind of helpless.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if you say anything, is this guy just gonna kill you?
Yeah, because like at that age, you know, you're not mature enough to really fully understand what's happening. So yeah, the thoughts he must have been thinking.
Yeah, crises like this are like so bad for young children. I mean, because they are so vulnerable, and you know, there's just so many bad outcomes that can happen for people in these scenarios.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of there was a movie. It was a Spielberg movie, Empire of the Sun, which is about a British kid in China who gets separated from his parents, and then the Japanese come and occupy, and so he's just stuck. He's a child stuck in this world.
That one with Christian Bale.
Yep, it's a young Christian Bale. Yeah,
I really like that film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sort of similar. That's like if some really bad stuff happens to a kid. And yeah, so we have their son, Nathan he's now with these people, and they drive back to the airport, and so then they're taking him, and they say, "Oh yeah, this is my son. You need to let me in. You need to let me in," and you know, this is a very tense scene.
Oh right? Yeah, that one was horrible to watch, because you know the kid's acting was so on point, and you could see him like struggling to pluck up the courage to say something, and I'm sitting there going, "Say something," you know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you think it was gonna be able to get out of that situation?
No, I honestly thought it was going to play out as one of those moments where they got through, and there was a split second where there was, I forget what was said, but something was said, and it made you think like they're going to get through now. And a split second later, it's just like they started asking for their tags or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was a very, very tense scene.
Yeah, because this other guy, the guy with the dad with the glasses who stole the kid, was like, "Oh well, we lost our bands, but see, my son has one, so let me do it." And then he Nathan kind of says, "They're not my parents," and they're like, "Oh no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like he's just in shock. He's in shock." And then he says it again, and this military person takes Nathan away from them, and they get sent off to wherever.
Yeah, that moment was like, it was one of those I can breathe again moments for me. I was just like, yes, he's safe now.
Yeah, that was a very, because I was hoping that he would be able to get himself out of it, but I felt the same. I was like, man, this, you know, he's a kid, and it's like, at least, you know, we're rooting for him to say, "Those not my parents," right?
Yeah, more like you know, just saying, you know, just yelling at my screen, saying, "Say something." You know what I mean?
Yeah, they play up the tension really well in that scene. Yeah. And so, like, meanwhile, the mom hitches another ride with some other people that are going north as well. It's sort of like a minivan full of a lot of people. So she's going with them. And then we get the scene with the dad. So the dad is John, Gerard Butler's character. And so he's also trying to find them. So he decides to go to the dad's house as well, because he expects that's where that she would go. He gets in this truck. He has this conversation with this other guy, and basically that guy tells him about what's going on. It's some character stuff. He asks John like what he does for work, and he says, he's like, a really well-educated guy, which is why the government wants to take him to be safe.
Yeah,
and so. Yeah, structural engineer. So did you felt like this scene worked for you?
Yeah, I quite liked that scene. It was I don't know, it was more character development. Like, I think all throughout the film there's big scenes where you get to see a lot of character development, and then there's like little subtle scenes where you get to see it as well, and I like that.
They do kind of have a connection pretty quickly, but then John, there's these other people that see that he has a wristband, and they kind of threaten him. And the resolution that happens in that scene is that they all start fighting pretty much.
Yeah.
And then I forget why, but like the car, the truck they're in kind of crashes.
Because they opened, like, the top came off, and then they could see what was going on back there, and then it all went to hell pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think then someone kind of swerved at him, and then the truck hit the railing, and a bunch of people flew out. But then we get this really intense scene where these two guys are just trying to kill him. They're trying to kill John.
Yeah, and you can see how desperate he is too. Like, swinging that hammer in like that direction and spinning around that direction. You can see just what a desperate situation he's in.
Yeah, and then he gets so desperate. Like, one of the guys, he hits him in the head with the other side of the hammer, and he kills this guy.
Yeah, that's a scene where you can see, like, you can see what he's capable of, and you can see him dealing with it. You can, like, he didn't want that. He's not that type of person, but it just happened, and you can see him dealing with it.
I think that's a really great way to put it. He did not want to do this. He did not want to murder this guy.
Yeah.
And when he did it, it really kind of shattered him.
Yeah, it's just like, it's one of those things where he did what he had to do, but you can see in his face that he's so remorseful. Like, that's not what he wanted.
And we get a good scene after that. I think he comes back to his house, and he just sees the world's about to end, basically, and no one else is in his neighborhood. And he's just sort of washing his face, and he's got blood all over him. And he's really, he's like, what the hell's the world come to?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty intense. And then, he's back on his way home. And so then, things kind of start heading in a more positive direction, thankfully. Like, the mom goes to this military, I guess, installation or something like that. Like, they have a lot of people giving medical care, and she's able to find her son there.
Yeah, like, I love that scene because it really, like, because you see so much of, like, bad points of society in this film, and then in that military camp you get to see a good side. Like, it's established earlier on in the film that they're all volunteers. Like, they're all not getting to go in a bunker. They're volunteering their time. So you get to see the best of the society as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like we get to see at the beginning of the, this part where they're separated, we see the worst of society, the people scavenging, the people looting, the people stealing kids. And now it's like the good stuff, the heartfelt stuff, the human connections.
Yeah, like that big hug that she had with that nurse, I think, you could just feel how, like, happy she was and how grateful she was. Yeah, I really liked that scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was good. So then they basically, both of them are now heading back to the dad's house. And so the dad, so Gerard Butler gets to the dad's house first, and we get some more character stuff, and then eventually she shows up as well, and they're all back together again finally. And but now sort of the world's still going to end, and it was sort of said earlier on in the film, like basically the day when they didn't get on the plane, there's 48 hours before the Earth gets hit with an extinction level event from part of this comet. So they have to get to Greenland or it's over.
Yeah. I kind of felt like that scene, like the whole at that dad's place. I think it was a bit too short. I mean, I think there was enough there to sort of establish, what type of person the granddad was. But I wish there was like a couple of minutes more, of like the family together bonding. I wish there was just a little bit more of that.
It is a little short, and the actor who plays the granddad is Scott Glenn, who's a cool actor. Probably seen him in a lot of stuff. And he decides to stay. He decides he's not going to leave with them. He's just going to stay, and basically that's it for him. And so that does kind of give us a little emotional punch. But it is a pretty quick scene before.
Yeah, like I was thinking that maybe that's how they wanted it. They didn't want to include too much because it kind of gives you that sense of, okay, they really don't have much time. But at the same time, I just wish there was a little bit more.
Yeah, because then after that, now we're like, okay, got to get to Greenland. So they drive to this airport where planes are taking off. They get in front of this airplane. They stop it, and then they're able to convince the pilot to take them on the plane. I forget. I know this actor. Like he's in Mindhunter, and he was in like Fight Club and some other stuff. The guy who was the pilot that they talked to.
Oh yeah, I recognize that guy too. Who was he? Because he was a really cool guy. He was Tom Holt McCulley.
Yeah,
that's a unusual name.
Yeah. Yeah. So he picks him up. He's again really cool actor. He's been in a lot of stuff that people would know without. There's like those actors you've seen them,
like
but you don't know their name.
I don't know his name, but as soon as I see his face, I recognize him.
Yeah, totally. So they're all flying to Greenland, and so they're like about to make it. One last. So they're at Greenland. We get some cool shots of like aerial footage and stuff.
What I like about the bit where they're just taking off in the jet is you see all those other cars that are just turning up, and you realize just how close it was. Because if it had been like a minute later, they wouldn't have been able to take off. You would have had people swarming that place. So I like that they included that in, and you can see the sigh of relief.
Yeah. There's something like that happened earlier. So like at the airport, Gerard Butler's like can't find his family, so he decides to leave, and then a swarm of people attack the airplanes, and the military is shooting at him. But the panic sets in at that point. So we've seen a lot of that, like people swarming and like people panicking.
So you know how bad it could have gotten.
Exactly. Yeah. If it was anything like that scene earlier, it would have been over. They would have been screwed. And then so they're flying over Greenland, and then like I guess another part of the comet hits, and then there's a shock wave, and it messes up the plane, and they crash. And the problem this creates is like now they have to. So like the pilots died, but everyone else is okay, and now they have to run to the facility where they're going to be protected. And so then we see the military pick them up, and they're going, and they don't have much time left. And finally, basically at the end, we see them get into the facility. They're all kind of huddled together, the family, and then we get these like flashes of them when their son was younger, and the husband and the wife like kind of together when they were in love, and their grandfather with their son when it was like a birthday. All this stuff is happening. We don't know if they're gonna live or not. And then the final shot, basically the movie is like we see them kind of leave the bunker, and they're still alive.
Yeah, like in that scene, like what's the little dude's name? I can't remember.
Yeah, the actor, he's Roger Dale
Nathan.
Floyd.
Oh yeah, Roger Dale. Yeah, that kid. Honestly, in the scene where he's in the bunker and they're both cuddling, like he's in the middle of his parents. I loved his acting in that. Like, I think his acting was so on point. I was just like, this kid did that scene so well.
He's good. He's really good for sure. I expect we'll see him more and more stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how'd you feel about some of the other actors? What'd you think of Gerard Butler in this film?
I honestly, like, when I finished watching this, I was just like, this is now like my new favorite film from him. Like, I haven't seen every Gerard Butler film, so I don't want I don't want anyone to confuse what I'm gonna say like with this is his best film ever. But out of all the films I've seen of his, this is the best one. Like, I think I don't know. I think this movie makes up for a lot of the crap he's been doing recently. You know what I mean? I think this movie more than makes up for it because it's just, I loved it.
Cool. And so what'd you think about the person who plays wife, Morena? Did you like?
I liked the fact that, like, the thing that I don't like about films is how they try and portray women as being just as strong and just as capable as men. But with this film, it showed that, yeah, that she's not as strong, like that guy that flung her out of the car, but it shows her, like, she doesn't give up. You know, she doesn't let that stop her. She just keeps pressing forward to find her son. And that's the kind of female figure I like looking up to. You know, women that are just mentally tough. I just really love that kind of character, and I think she played that really well.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, that moment when she gets her son taken from her is like so emotional, and she plays it really well.
Yeah, just so well. Like, there's a lot of good acting in this film. So yeah, I think it was cast really well.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, well, I guess what are your overall thoughts? And I guess if you have a rating for this film, what do you think about it?
As a disaster film, like end of the world apocalypse thing, I think it was brilliant. I was a bit disappointed at the end that they really didn't show much of the destruction, and I'd assume that that's because the budget wasn't there for the CGI. But I just wish there was a lot more of the destruction shown. But other than that, I think it was really good.
Cool. Is this one you're gonna pick up on Blu-ray?
I'm picking this one up on 4K. I can't wait until this comes out. Like, when it comes to CGI movies, I love getting them on 4K. You know, especially when there's a lot of detail for you to look at. I love getting it in that 4K resolution.
Cool. Well, I feel like that's probably the highest level of recommendation to give this film, right?
Like, I want to just like go on the record to state this is just in my opinion. I'm not like a professional critic. I just like this movie. Like, I liked Mortal Engine, which got a lot of bad reviews. So that should tell people, you know, take my opinion with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean that's a cool film. Mortal Engine is a cool film. It's just no one saw it. I feel like when it came out.
Yeah, I reckon it's a really good film. That's why I got it on 4K, because I was just like, holy crap, this thing's gonna look terrific in 4K. And then I showed people, and I had a couple of people say, oh, that movie was terrible. And I'm just like, oh, okay, maybe I've got bad taste.
Nah, I totally disagree. You don't have bad taste. It's just, film is subjective. Everybody likes what they like. It's just, it is what it is. That's what makes it cool.
I loved this film. This film was great. I think it's one of his best. His acting was like all their acting. I think everyone did a great job in this film.
Awesome. Excellent. Yeah. So I think that'll about cover it for this film. Is there anything you want us to plug for, your channels or anything you've got in social media?
Well, I suppose if your viewers like, random videos mostly about, movie pickups, Britney Spaulding, Spaulding Spaulding, that's my channel on YouTube, so feel free to check it out.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, and again, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I thought we had a good discussion.
I actually enjoyed
this. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, thanks again, everybody, and I'll probably see you guys again soon. Take care.